Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 197 of the Nope Coach podcast. Buying shit you shouldn't. I'm very excited about this topic, and I'm welcoming back Mitchell Levy. So, welcome back.
It is good to be back. Tell the audience why we got here, how we got here.
So when Mitchell and I first met, he was telling me about his new business offering that he's making, and part of it was there's the context, and then there's business in a box. And for me, when I hear business in a box, given my experience on courses I've done in the past, it's nominally just an add-on. Let's just shove this on here so it sounds great and more people buy it, but they don't actually dive into what it takes to create a business, get leads, cultivate leads, put content out, all this sort of thing. So I asked, so what do you mean by this section? And we started a discussion. And from there, I spoke about experiences I've had in the past where I've bought a program, and I call them the Easter egg. They're bright and shiny on the outside. The sales page looks fantastic. The testimonials are amazing. And then you get in there and it's shit on the inside. And once they've got your money, they don't care about you anymore. So I invited Mitchell, was like, can we talk about this? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one. My clients aren't the only ones who've experienced this, that something looks amazing, so we buy it. And then we have buyer's remorse almost instantaneously. Or the other one that we didn't talk about, but I'll say, something that says we have a vibrant Facebook community, or we have a vibrant active community. Because for me, as an introvert, as a highly sensitive person, I love online communities because I can dive in and dive out as I feel comfortable to. So if it's active, anyway, long story short, most of them, when you get in there, it's tumbleweeds. And the only message for the last 6 months is the one welcoming you to the program. And you're like, man, and you said we have a vibrant, interactive community. No. So Mitchell, where do you want to start? What's your take on this?
Oh, it's interesting. And we'll say one more. One of the things when you first started talking, I'm thinking to myself, information discernment, right? One of my favorite things, because we'll talk there. Let's start with the information discernment. And what I'll say is, it turns out that that's not 100% what you wanted to cover. So that's why we're not focusing on that area. First of all, information discernment. We're now at this stage in the evolution of technology that you really can't trust anything you hear, including what you're hearing right now, right? Because is this me or is this the avatar of me, right? And so what does that mean? Well, when you hear something, you want to check with multiple sources. You want to hear a little bit more. If you're watching somebody's testimonial, well, look them up on social media and see whether or not they do that for everything, or see whether or not they seem legitimate in terms of who they are. See if you can find.
Can I interrupt there and add one? See if they actually exist. The very first business that so I hired a coach, and then she asked me onto the team to work for her, and she had a coach training. One of the roles she tried to have me do was write her testimonials, and I had an instant, like, I cannot do this. It's again, and she's like, oh, well, we've worked with thousands of people. Now, I hadn't seen thousands of people. Just, write the summary of what they say. But basically, she wrote them all, and they didn't actually exist. So part of me, like with social proof, when you have a business, testimonials are a big thing. I didn't have them on my website for years because I had such like feeling. And also, are they even legit? So a lot of the testimonials I do have on my business now are videos, because, well, I suppose even now, though, if I got real tech savvy, for those of you who know me, I have very limited tech skills, even that could be faked. But yeah, does the person even exist?
Yeah. So, the thing that's interesting when you're looking at products, it's a great, the fact that you were, by the way, if somebody says to me, hey, write the endorsements, because like, that's a red flag. That's like, well, why should I work with this person? Because they're not real. And that's the thing with information discernment, is like, is what you're seeing real? Is it legitimate? Does it count? And does it work for me? Right? If somebody said, oh yeah, this works for all people, once again, red flag. No, it can't possibly work for all people. And one of the things that you said is, sometimes with your clients, they'll buy stuff because they don't want, they're people pleasers. So they want to actually say yes, and then it's not working for them, and they're afraid to say it doesn't work. Well, listen, if you're a client, we'll just put this out there. you're a client and you've bought something and the person on the other end said it's going to work for you and it's not working for you, it is in your right to say, hey, I need help. This is not working.
That's such a
Right?
great point to reinstate. Yes.
You might even go as far as to say, this is fun. I am not like other people. This is my personality. Is there anyone who's like me that I could talk to? I mean, depending on how much money it is, right? If, we're talking about 10, 20, less than $100, it's, if you say yes to something, it's okay. But if we're talking about thousands of dollars, it might make sense for you to talk to somebody and see if it's a good fit for you. I am of a very interesting belief. One size does not fit all. I am of a very interesting belief from a very practical, pragmatic perspective. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another term we haven't talked about yet, marketing cookie cutter approaches. What you see out in the marketplace is you see somebody who may have been successful doing one thing for one person. Now, maybe they were successful doing 2 or 3 things for 2 or 3 people. And then they say, I got a formula. You buy this formula and it will work for you. To me, that's a marketing cookie cutter approach. When I talk about clarity, I've interviewed over 500 thought leaders on clarity. I've delivered a CPOP, a customer pointed possibilities, to over 1,000 people, and I am still learning. Right? You hear that? I'm still learning. There's still things that every day I'm learning, and now I'm learning, as you mentioned, the business in a box. How do I combine the clarity with business in a box? So if you're talking to somebody who's an expert who's selling you a solution, you could say, I am different. How does this work for me? And who in your audience can I talk to that looks like me? And have that conversation. Because there's so much stuff out there in the world. You should never buy shit that really is that. And I don't know, it's fascinating for me. If you have a particular personality type and you don't do fill in the blank, you're not going to do homework, or you're not going to watch videos, or you're not going to, whatever it is that you find somebody else who's in the program or who was in a program and was able to make this work for you. Because the people who build programs, they may not deal with all the aspects that you need to deal with, right? When you think about learning, are you visual, are you auditory, or are you kinesthetic? So a lot of times programs are tailored to one of the 3, not all 3. Well, you might be a certain type of person that needs to learn in a particular way. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you wrong. That just makes you someone who understands your consumption habits and your way to fix things.
I love that. I love circling back to your point on information discernment. Asking questions, as simple as that. Because another thing that I've seen people do, and I myself have stumbled into inadvertently, if it has a money back guarantee, then I feel that level of safety. But actually asking, okay, can I see the fine print? Like, can I see the ins and outs, what's involved in this money back guarantee before I purchase? Sometimes they don't let you see it until afterwards. And it's so involved and so convoluted and so confusing. It's not actually legit.
How about, can I talk to one person who took advantage of it?
Yes. And I think sometimes people hide from that. They're like, they fear that, or they, but yeah, can I speak to someone who's taken advantage of that? Or how many people have taken advantage of that? Or, what's involved in claiming it? So sometimes you have to do the entire thing, submit your homework. It has to be handwritten, it has to be all this. Like, I remember that I didn't do this program, but one of my friends did. And part of it was they had to contact 100 potential leads. And then they had to submit those leads to the person. And I was like, but isn't that a breach of privacy? So if I've got your email address, I can't then go give it to someone else so that they can go hound you.
Wow. And I think what's interesting when you ask those questions. So think about this. If you're a people pleaser and you want to please somebody else and you're asking these questions, here's what's important. Pay attention to how the response happens. Right? Do they do they immediately like turn their head down and try to figure stuff out, or do you feel like what's coming out of their mouth after you ask that question is a bunch of garbage, right? Because sometimes you may not need to do the follow through. Like immediate no's, they're going to respond in a way that makes you feel ilk, makes you feel uncomfortable, right? And like you're the first person who ever said, "What do you mean business in a box?" I'm like, "That's a great question. Let me show you." And I
You
said, "Hey,
called up a spreadsheet and shared screen and talked me through it, and I loved that. Like it was showed this is thought through rather than this is an add-on. Because another thing that annoys me, since we're going buying shit you shouldn't, if you see the bonuses and they have this is worth this many hundred or this is worth this many thousand, and at the end of it, it's like you get $10,000 worth of bonuses for $100. I don't know about the States, but in Australia, it's illegal to sell something, to have that if you haven't sold it. So it doesn't matter how much it's valued at, because normally people just shove some price on there. If you haven't literally sold it for that price, then you cannot do that by law. So I just find it really interesting that we shove all these bonuses on there. And especially for my clientele and me, it's often overwhelming. Like all that stuff, like when your 3 categories we spoke about on previous episodes, normally the bonuses for me immediately go to not interested.
Interesting. I think, is there something we hadn't talked about buying stuff that you shouldn't? I oftentimes want to think about who is my accountability coach. So questions you get asked. I know I want to do this. This is what I said I'm going to do. Who's going to make sure I do it? How are you going to sort of make sure? Now it's interesting because babysitting is a certain, right. So how will you follow through to make sure that at least I've been notified I should be doing this on a consistent level? I'm trying to think about what else. On the community side, it's what's your definition of vibrant?
Yes.
Right. That's a great one. Like, just look at those words, and any words that look like a marketing cookie cutter word, like ask those questions. For instance, I will say one thing. When you said, "Hey, you got a business in a box," I didn't tell you it was 100% guaranteed to work. What I said when I was answering is, here's what I have. Here's what I think will work. I'm still working on making this work.
Yes.
Right. You want to hear in the heart and in the mind. Actually, let's do it in the other way. You want to hear the words, the thing that comes from their head, that it also comes from their heart. That what they really want to do is make sure you, as part of the audience that the playground they play in, that they actually want to help solve a particular pain point that you want to get solved. And if it turns out that it feels like it's become a marketing cookie cutter approach that they're just doing to make money, doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I love that. So if there's that active listening and thought put into answering your question, as opposed to they don't even hear it and just push it down. So when I asked you about business as a box, you're like, "Can I share screen?" I'm like, "Sure." And you brought up a table and you had these different considerations, what you've seen in the marketplace, what you were going to add in. That felt more nurturing rather than this is what I'm just going to stick on here because it sounds cool, which some people do. So one more thing, just because I know we're going to get time soon, but something to consider. For my business, I work with people pleasers. So if you go to my website, there's all the description of my program. People can just buy, and I believe 100% in pricing transparency. So the price is there, or they can choose to book a call if they want to talk to me about it. I don't actually take payment on those calls, and I encourage them not to buy in the moment. Because if you're a people pleaser and you're coming to me, often you'll be like, "Oh, yeah. And then you'll buy out of that people-pleasing nature. Like, "Oh, I've just taken up an hour of your time. I feel guilty," or whatever. I don't want that. I want you to sleep on it. I want you to think on it. I want you to be ready. So don't feel that, if you say no to me, it's a bad thing. Maybe you don't need the course because you're already on your way. So I think, sometimes this pressure, like sign up now and I'll give you all these extra things. When I get on sales calls as a client, I'm really clear. I don't care if you offer me the moon. I'm not giving you my credit card and I'm not saying no in this moment because I know myself enough that I need to sleep on it. And when I feel that pressure, it's an immediate no from me now. But in the beginning, that's how I bought a lot of shit I didn't need, Mitchell.
I love that. I think what you're by the way, it makes so much sense for you to speak the way you do. So, by the way, just so I can remember that you heard, what was your CPOP again?
Oh, it was female people pleasers who ignore themselves.
Got it. So CPOP, customer point of possibility. So now what you just heard is somebody, by the way, thank you for remembering. People who remember their CPOP, the question you want to ask if you're going to buy a program is, are they living in their playground? And what you said was, hey, people want to come online and talk to me, and I'm going to spend an hour with them, and I don't let them buy because my audience is going to not buy for the right reason. They're going to buy because they're people pleasers. So I tell them to sleep on it because I need to sleep on it. Right. And yeah, I'm not a big, so by the way, so when you're thinking about buying, is the person on the other side actually living in, are they that person? Are they the person you want to hang out with? Right. Man, I know we end up buying. I'm not a big fan of buying last minute, artificial constraints, all of that stuff. We occasionally do some of them. Some are real, right? For my program, 8 to 10 people, right? I have 7 at the moment who signed up. I will take one more. At this stage, it's far enough along that I can only take one more. Is that an artificial constraint? Yeah, sort of. Except for me, I do want a vibrant community. And I'm not going to get a vibrant community if I have more than 10 people in each cohort that we run.
Yeah,
I just know that. Right. And so the understanding what people do and for what reason, and having that in alignment with what they're promising can help you make decisions of, should I buy or should I not? And I'll raise my hand. I bought stuff. I bought at least 2 $15,000 funnel programs that were guaranteed to work for me. Neither did. And it was, of course, my fault. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. I guess you have to spend that money and lose before you can figure out that there is no one size fits all.
Yeah, I think, sometimes it's a badge of honor. Like, we learn through validation, like this was amazing, or we can learn through contrast. I'm never doing that again. One of them's more fun than the other, but either way we learn.
Well said. Very well said.
So thank you so much for joining me, Mitchell. What do you do and where can people find you?
I help people articulate their purpose, their value, so that when you actually know the playground, the value you live in, it's so much easier for you to reach out. It's so much easier for people to reach out to you to recommend you. The best way to find me is on my website, mitchelllevy.com. If I'm on many social media platforms, so from Mitchell Levy, MITCHELLLEVY, so 3 L's in there.com. When you get there, you have the ability to book time on my calendar, look at some of the programs we're doing, see if it's something that makes sense. If you would like to talk, I'm happy to talk to you. I don't know if I sell people. I don't normally sell people live. That's a good question, but I'm not against it. And I think I've had 1 or 2, because when it makes sense, but I don't do it through pressure, right? If it's the right fit and it's needed, then yes. Otherwise, I'm trying to think about this. Depends on the program, but most of the time I will never sell live because it's a great question. Is it the right decision for that person at that point in time? And I am also somebody who needs to think about it, sleep on it. I wake up in the morning, I go, yep, this is me, and then buy. So yeah. Hey, thank you. MitchellLevy.com. Thank you.
Thank
Nice spending
you.
time with you.
Thanks for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
See ya. Bye.